All right, and then I will welcome everyone. So welcome. This is our first Eat, Paint, Live live Zoom workshop for the year. And we're going to be drawing today. So this is about fundamentals of drawing, this workshop, how to use shape and how to use line in your drawing. And there will be a part 2 to this, which will be next month, which will be then how do you use that in composition, shape and line in composition. But to use them in composition, you have to understand how to see shape and how to create it first, even before you go into a composition. So we'll obviously touch base on a little. We're not just going to be drawing cubes today, but obviously that's a little basic even for me. But I have so many of my students who struggle with drawing skills. Even in the Friday happy hours where they just say, I like my painting, but I wish that the drawing had been better. And that might be because we have an hour to do it. But I do hear from a lot of you guys that you struggle to get the shapes the way you want them. And then the part 2 of that would be perspective and how to get things on the picture plane. So that'll be in the next lesson as well. So for today, we're going to cover shape and line, which are interrelated. And then we will be using pencil and paper mostly for sketching today. You don't have to use your good watercolor paper today. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people, including myself, we like to draw with our paintbrush. So if you'd rather not sketch with pencil, if you'd rather pull out your paints and use them to create the shapes and the lines, you're welcome to. I might do that at the end, especially if you guys want me to. But I'm going to start off with pencil and paper. Okay. So what else do I want to say? This is a pay as you wish. I'm going to put my Venmo into the group chat. If you guys enjoy this and you wish to put a $5 tip in there or a $10 tip, you're welcome to. You don't have to. It's not required. And I really do appreciate you guys all coming and interacting. So thank you. Yeah, we've got 20 people here today, so that's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about, we're going to be drawing, by the way. So I'm going to talk and share, and we will draw. We'll have at least 2 or 3 opportunities to draw throughout the lesson. Okay. And again, it's being recorded. So if you have to leave early, you can always you can fast forward, catch the end of it on YouTube. Okay. So let's go here and let's go to the PowerPoint, let's say. Okay, so can everyone see this? Okay, I can see you guys.
Yes.
I can see you saying yes. Okay, so we're going to talk about using shape and line in drawing. The drawing does not always have to, but can form an underpainting or a first stage, a first step, as you might call it, in a painting. But a lot of the time we do watercolor painting that doesn't involve a lot of drawing. Or doesn't involve any drawing, like direct watercolor, or perhaps a very, very loose abstracted watercolor. But we will be talking more about shape and line in drawing as a basis to then go to the next step, which would be watercolor painting. But I will mention some things as it applies to drawing on the page with watercolor. So we're going to start talking about shape first, and then we'll talk about line. So shape is one of the principles of art that serves as a building block in order to represent a variety of subject matter, whether it's in painting or sculpture, photography, architecture, really anything. And I am the kind of artist who sees things more in shape than I do see them in line or in color. So I'm a shape person. I learned that when I was in 8th grade in my art class, and we were all asked to do a drawing of a bowl of pears, and mine were very cubist looking. They were very angular, very geometric. And my teacher told me that my work was derivative of Cezanne, that it wasn't original, that I had copied somebody else. And I didn't understand because I didn't know who Cezanne was, and I didn't know what derivative was. It wasn't an art history class. It was just like a general drawing class. And so I said, I didn't understand. I said, but that's how I see them. I see them angularly, and I didn't round out the forms. So it was very interesting. I learned very early on that I was seeing in shapes. And so I've always used shapes more than anything else in order to build build a painting or build a drawing. So in its most basic form, shape is just a two-dimensional thing that's surrounded by an outline in many cases, right? And then within the context of art, shape is a form. It's just a form. So artists use obviously other lines, including line and value and shadow and color and all sorts of things to give shapes the appearance of being three-dimensional. So let's start with that. So what is the big deal about, and why is it so difficult to represent shapes on the paper or represent things that you see in real life on a flat piece of paper? Let's say if you're a watercolor artist. Can anyone vocalize, like, what's the big deal about it? Why is it so hard? Why do we spend time even thinking about it?
This is Kara.
Hey, Kara.
Because there's so much to look at, it's hard to decide what you want to focus on.
Yes, for sure. That's a good point. A lot of the time, it is really hard to see the forest for the trees, you know, a lot of the shapes. And we are going to actually cover that in the next workshop in February when we talk about simplifying what we see in front of us. So using shape and using line in composition involves a lot of simplification. So yeah, that's one reason that it's so challenging. There's a bigger reason though, I think, and that is that when we are creating art on a two-dimensional piece of paper, we're looking at something in front of us, whether it is a pitcher of water with flowers in it, or it's a still life of fruit, or it's a landscape. And I'm not talking about looking at a photo of that landscape. I'm talking about looking at it in real life, because a photo is also just a two-dimensional capture, is it not? So you're looking at that 3D subject in front of you, and then we are translating it to a two-dimensional flat piece of paper. While at the same time, in general, we're trying to recreate that illusion and give it back its third dimension of depth. So that is what is so challenging. We're looking at something that has form, that is 3D, and we're translating it to a two-dimensional piece of paper. Now, if you're making a sculpture, you can take something that's three-dimensional, and then in a sculpture, you can use all three dimensions, right? You can create it in the round. But on the paper, it's just two dimensions on a flat piece of paper. So how do you create that illusion of three dimensions? Well, a lot of artists don't even try, right? You know, those illustrative works of art, or they're maybe more abstract. And so they don't try to create the illusion of three dimensions. But I'll tell you, those artists still know how to do it. They've learned how to do it, and they've decided to bypass it. So how do we do it? Oops. So we have tools at hand, and those tools to create the illusion of the third dimension are primarily our line, shape, and value. We've done value in, I think a couple months ago, we talked about value, but we didn't necessarily talk about it in this context. So I'll be bringing it in a little bit as we're going through. So in my mind, those are the three tools that we have at hand: line, shape, and value, to create the illusion of depth and the third dimension. And then also we have tools of color and atmospheric perspective, which is like, if you don't know what atmospheric perspective is, that's when things fade out in the distance, right? Things don't really fade out and become washed out in the distance. It's just that we can't see that far. And so what the eye can see and what happens with light is that, for example, if you're looking at a range of mountains, the first mountain, the one that's closest to you, is darker, it's crisper, you might be able to see some details in it. And as it goes back, the range becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. I think this is an analogy everyone can understand. We've all seen people do paintings of mountain ranges, right? And you know, from, unless you're Superman, when you're seeing with your own eyes, that you can't see that far away. Things become softer and vaguer as things move away. So we do also have that tool at hand in general for landscape painting, not so much for still life and things like that. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so let's talk about shape to start. So we have shapes that are two-dimensional, and those two dimensions are length and width. So some basic shapes that are geometric shapes, which are more regular shapes. You have a circle, you have the cylinder, you have an oval or an ellipse, which is a flattened out circle, which in my mind we use a lot more than we use true circles in pictures. So then we have triangles, squares, and rectangles, and so forth. So those are, we all know those basic shapes, and you can see those shapes in nature if you're looking for them, and you can build anything using those basic shapes. But then we also have what are organic shapes, which are generally are more irregular. And I've just given you some examples of those. Again, it can be so many things. Okay, so those are two-dimensional shapes, they're flat. When you add the third dimension, whether you want to call it height or depth, when you add that third dimension, then you get, from a circle, you get a sphere. From a triangle, you get a pyramid. From the square, you get the cube, and so on and so forth. And then even on a regular shape, you can give those irregular shapes. This one looks like a cube of cheese or something like that. But you can give an irregular shape a third dimension. So let's imagine a car or a tractor, right? And really, those irregular shapes are, in essence, they're just combinations of other shapes, aren't they? You put together a bunch of shapes and then you get another shape. Or you might take away from that shape in some cases. So you can really use shapes to simplify any form from life. In this case, rather than a photo, I used a painting of mine. But you can use ovals or ellipses, cylinders, rectangles, triangles, and I only highlighted a few of those shapes. And a shape is just a closed line, by the way. That's all it is. Instead of a line in one direction, it ends up being closed off. So are there other people here in this room that think this way and see this way when it comes to artwork, translating what they see in front of them? I see some yes shakes. That's good. For some of you, is this a new concept? Do you maybe not see things this way? Anybody?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Karen, for your honesty.
I've learned to see it that way,
Marcia?
but yes, I've learned, I'm sorry, this is Marcia. I've learned to see it that way, but it doesn't happen naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think for some of us, like I know for me, I see it that way naturally, but not everybody does. And it's sort of like being able to differentiate value or differentiate color. These are learned skills, right? So if we practice, we can learn to see this way. And what is making art? The first step is seeing. Without seeing is very difficult, unless you have a very good imagination and your art is coming purely from a place of imagination, from your own head. But if you want to draw or paint what's in front of you, you have to be able to learn to see. Seeing is the first step. So thank you guys for sharing. So the first step for me is to see the shape in front of me. So this is my water jar, by the way. That's all it is. And when I look at that water jar, I see not one shape, because shapes aren't always so simple, but I look at it and I see my eyes can pick out a combination of shapes. So you can choose anything that's in front of you right now. It might be your coffee cup, it might be something that holds your paintbrushes or a tube of paint, whatever it is. Take a look at it and see if you see some two-dimensional shapes that it is made out of. Okay, so when I look at my, and you can see it here in the right where it says refine, you can see, and I by the way, I only spent a minute or two sketching this. It's not accurate to scale and all that, but I wanted to give you guys a sense of my process. So I look at this water jar and I see the base is equates roughly to a rectangle. And when I look at that rectangle, I get a sense of the proportions of that rectangle. So it's not a super elongated rectangle. It's like a square with a little bit more, right? So because shapes come in all sizes and all proportions, unless it's like an equilateral triangle, for example, that's going to be the same proportion. But when I look at that rectangle, it's not super tall. So I kind of plot out that rectangle, and then on top of it, I think that's called a parallelogram, right? I see a parallelogram, which is the little part that connects right here, which really is like a triangle that you've then cut off, right? So this is the parallelogram here. So we'll get rid of that. There we go. And then on top of it, I see a cylinder. A cylinder really is three-dimensional, so I should back that up. I see a rectangle. Oops, I lost my arrow. It's jumping on me. Oh. Uh-oh, this could be bad. Sorry, give me a quick sec. My arrows just disappeared on me, which is really weird. Has anybody ever had that happen? Anybody know what to do about it?
Did you move your mouse around, or did your mouse go?
I moved my mouse and then it didn't like it anymore. So it's kind of stuck. Oh, I got it back. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for bearing with me.
Sometimes if your battery's going dead in your mouse or it needs to be charged, it'll.
No, I'm not using I just use my laptop mouse. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't know. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm gonna stop the share.
That mouse drives me
It might
crazy.
fix it. Sometimes it doesn't, Zoom doesn't like it when you toggle too much, for example. We'll try that again. Okay, so what I see is I'll go back, and so instead of a cylinder, let's call it a flat shape, is a rectangle with a half circle on top of it. Okay, so I'm seeing a combination of 4 shapes that are flat, and I sketch those shapes out. And then my next step, yeah, it just did it to me again. It just doesn't like it. I have never had this happen before, you guys, ever. So bizarre. I'll just give it a second. I have a feel it's a delay. So we'll take a look at the 3-dimensional shape. So you guys can see here in that 3-dimensional shape how I've added the depth to the length and the width, right? So I've added the sort of, let's call it the side of that shape. Oh, I've never had this happen.
And I guarantee we've all had this problem.
Hey,
It's not just you.
Welcome to the world of electron.
It's very hard when you're trying to share. It's like up on the top menu, but nowhere else. Okay. So I'm gonna stop annotating because it doesn't like it. That's my problem. Okay, can you guys see the screen again?
Yeah.
Okay, so I won't annotate anymore. So unfortunately, but you'll see. So I've added the 3rd dimension here all the way around, and I've even added it behind the figure because it's a clear figure. You don't have to do this if it's a solid figure, but if it's transparent, you're probably going to want to have those lines there. But in a solid figure, sometimes it helps to put them back there because it helps you make sure your perspective of that shape is okay. If you don't know how to go from a 2D to a 3-dimensional object, then take a class on linear perspective because that's where you're going to learn how to do that for any shape at all. But otherwise, it is again about seeing. So when I'm looking at this particular water glass, I can see, unless it's straight head on in front of me, I can see that it has a bit of side. Your object may have a bit of top or a bit of bottom showing. and just look closely at the angles of those lines. Are they going up or are they going down, right? Did you guys know how to sight? So when you're looking and you're looking at the side of this object, does it go up or does it go down? And do you guys know how to use a pencil to sight things in front of you? Has everybody done that? It can be very useful if you're not sure about the direction of a line or the direction of a line within a shape. Using a pencil is a very easy way to see, is that line straight? Is it going down? Is it going up? And at what angle is it going? Use that pencil to help you. You might notice that some lines you think are straight up and down aren't really straight up and down. For example, palm trees out on the beach. Very rarely do they really go straight up and down. And if you sight them, you'll realize that they might have a bit of an angle, and then they might even angle up this way again. A lot of trees don't go straight up and down. So you can sight things like this, and then that helps you see it, and then you can either hold it to your paper, or you can just, snapshot it in your brain and then draw it correctly on your paper. Okay, so that is a good, useful thing to learn how to do. Okay, once you've got that third dimension in there, that's when I refine the edges. So that is something that my art teacher, Mr. Sasso, in 8th grade would have wanted me to do, would be to refine those edges just a little bit more, because not everything is that squared off. So that's when you can just smooth things out. It's not that angular, it's a little bit round. Perhaps I forgot the little bottom portion of my glass, right? The little foot that it sits on. Perhaps I had the angle of the top was a little bit incorrect, but using those 3 steps is very helpful, because you will get the general shape, size, proportion of it down on paper, and you also give yourself time to see. You're seeing the nuances of that object, whereas if you just look at it once and try to draw it, you might not have, you're not spending as much time looking. Do you guys find that ever? The more you look at something, the more closely you start to see details in it. But life goes by so fast, and rarely do we give ourselves a lot of time to really study an object. Unless you've been to arts class, you've taken any classes. If you go to art school, you spend a lot of time looking, a lot of time studying. Yes, Marcia, thank you. Oh, you're muted, if you can unmute.
There. I was just going to say, in Mike Daniels' class, he recommends we look at the picture or the object for 2 hours at least. Not all at once, but added up. And he had me draw a glass with a spoon in it with an apple behind it. And I started seeing where the reflections were. I never realized that there was so many different reflections and colors, and how, the shadow was. But, I could never do anything for 2 hours straight. Maybe this workshop, but but added up. I would look at it and then go back and look at it again. And it really makes a big difference. And thank you for saying that again. It's one of those things I have to hear over and over and over again before it sinks in.
Well, you're welcome. I think all of us do. And Mike Daniels is a gem and has so much patience. So we don't all have that kind of patience, but it's definitely something to aspire to. I think that the human brain likes closures. It likes answers. It likes to fill in the blanks. So when we see things, quite often we think we're seeing it, but we're not. We're seeing a shorthand version that makes it easy for our brain to go, that's a square, that's an apple, that's a person. Not all apples, not all persons are the same, right? But it is much easier. This is something our brains want to do. They want closure, and then they want to move on. So the more you look at something, the more you circumvent that process of your brain naming it, defining it, and you really look at it and you see it for what it actually is. So not all clouds look like this, right? These are the things we're taught, the shorthands we're taught as children. It's not that we continue to be childish as we grow up, it's just how our brain paths work. So looking at things is what enables us to really, really see them. The more time you spend looking at them, the more you're going to see them. And I think for me, that 3-step process of 2 dimensions, add the third, and then refine, that's before I've gotten to shadow or any kind of shading that I've put in there. That would be the 4th step. You know, that gives me so much more time to really see, and I'm making little corrections in there as I do it, right? So yeah, that's a great point, Marcia. Thank you. So it's called construction when you draw with shapes. I didn't know that back in 8th grade. So I do this all the time with every object. Everything I see kind of starts off this way when I'm using a pencil to draw. When I'm using my paintbrush, quite often I do the same exact thing. I just, because I've done it so much, and I do draw all the time, even though people don't always get to see my drawings, I do draw quite often. It maybe happens more naturally. It translates without the steps onto the watercolor paper. But everything, like here's a bird, it starts off with a simple, I would call that like a shield shape for the body, a tongue depressor shape for the tail. I've got kind of a parallelogram shape for the head, a triangle for the beak, and then I add a little semicircle for the cap of the head, and a little bit of a placement for that little circle for the eye. All of those are shapes. There's 1 or 2 lines, I would say, alone in there, that lines, and that's just because my pencil was just moving, right? Then the second part, I start refining and readjusting, where I notice I made the tail too long for this particular bird because I wasn't really looking that closely, right? Then on the second step, I can say that shoulder curve really goes down at the end. The beak is slightly rounded at the top. It's not a pure triangle. So you start really refining the rough edges, but also refining the relationships between the shapes with each other. Okay. Do you guys want to draw something?
Sure.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So does everybody have something in front of them that they can draw, or would you like to draw like all the same thing? I can just pull something up.
Same thing.
Okay.
Same
Either
thing.
way.
Yeah.
Oh, so let's go, actually, before we do that, let's talk about contour lines, because I feel like that might help us. Okay. So we'll draw a bird. I threw a bird in there. We all, when in doubt, you know how it goes. So let's talk about contour lines. So here's a painting versus a drawing. And here's where I'll talk about watercolor. So I don't always draw all those lines. I often draw a bare minimum of lines when I'm getting ready to do a watercolor. So if it's something that either a shape I'm familiar with, a subject I'm familiar with, or something maybe I've drawn it before in my sketchbook, and now I'm going to translate it to good watercolor paper, I don't necessarily have to redraw the whole thing. And in fact, especially when I'm using light colors, I don't want to redraw the whole thing, because the more graphite you have down on watercolor paper, the harder it is to see the purity of the colors. It gets in the way. It even gets in the way of value. And also, once you've painted over it and the paint is dried, it is hard to erase. So here's an example where I believe I did the general outline. And then all those contour lines on the inside of the mushroom, I didn't draw them. I just observed them, and then I drew them with my paintbrush. So I'm still drawing, but I'm drawing with the paint. So a contour line is a line that goes inside and can help refine our outline, but also it can create value and texture and detail within the subject. So it's not just a line for the sake of filling in. It's a line that helps with creating that 3-dimensional shape. Does that make sense? Some of you guys look like you're struggling with that, but maybe it's something else. I see your faces. So adding contours can help refine your outline, but you've already got the proportion in place, so your contour lines are accurate. I see Vicky. I'm going to get to you in just 1 second, Vic.
Okay.
So don't jump to contour line before you get your shapes more or less in place. A contour line can help you because maybe if you start going in the inside, you might realize your proportions on the outside, that rectangle, that body or the head, it's in the wrong place. Time to refine it before you start putting the paint down, right? But if you start focusing too much on the interior and all of the shading and the contours, then you might overcommit, or you might miss the fact that your proportions are incorrect. Okay. Vicky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you take your finger and put it on that painting you were just showing and outline the contour line?
I can hover my
Or your
mouse,
little,
but I'm
yeah,
afraid
yeah,
if
with
I
that little thing.
annotate, yeah, I'm afraid if I annotate, it's gonna screw it up. So here's the inner contour line. So all of these little lines that you see, they are following the form. So you can see it better here. I think I close up on it. They follow the form. So these lines aren't just like cross-hatching lines. You guys might have heard of cross-hatching. These lines are following the form of the mushroom. And so they actually add value because every time I put a color down, it is a darker value, correct? Right, Vicky? So what you're
Yes.
getting here is you're shading, but you're also contouring at the same time. So you can see how it follows the shape. If I had drawn the contour lines like this, you would have a different feeling of the shape of this mushroom, correct?
Got it.
It would feel still rounded, but it wouldn't feel long. Okay, so imagine this with the lines going across like this. So I was able to accomplish that, but in the way I wanted to, by bringing them long and downward. Does that answer the question that you had?
Yes.
So
Okay,
you
thank you.
actually did, I'm sorry, Anne, you drew lines in there? I don't see them. So
Yeah.
I thought you just did outside, then you used paint to make
On
the
this
lines,
mushroom?
right?
Let me see.
Yeah.
Yes, I just did, the lines are all in paint, correct?
Right, okay.
Yeah, no, the pencil was only on the outline and you can kind of
That's
see
what I
it.
thought.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so sometimes you don't have to do it in pencil, especially if you already know what you're doing, but sometimes like that shape to me was so organic and kind of easy to do. On a more difficult subject, I would have probably done a sketch of it first. And I mean, if you guys, some people think I don't sketch. I have tons of sketchbooks. Like they're all around my house. Sometimes I do forget where I sketch things. So these are mostly just pencil. There's hardly any color in them, although sometimes I can't help myself and I go to color. But a lot of the time you don't see the pencil because I transfer my painting on when I put it on good paper. I don't use a lot of graphite. And that's because I like to paint with light and bright colors. So when you are drawing and you're drawing directly onto your good paper, like your Arches paper, you have to know how hard it is to get the graphite to come off, especially once you've already painted on it and that paint is dry. You can erase all you want and it will take a little bit of the pencil away, but it will also it will fade out some of the color. So some of you guys who've been painting in watercolor for a while understand what an underpainting is. After your underpainting dries, that's the time to remove your pencil with an eraser if you want to get rid of it. But the best way to avoid having a lot of graphite on the paper is don't put a lot down. So that's why I do my sketches like this beforehand. And then what I would do is just do the basic outline, and sometimes I'll even use tracing paper and I'll trace the shape, because once I've got the proportions and major details where I want them, I don't need to use a lot of graphite, but I don't want to necessarily redraw it again either. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so how about we draw this guy? So we'll draw this guy together. What do you guys think? Does it look, yeah, so somebody made a noise, so I'm guessing you guys think maybe that looks challenging.
Yes.
Yes, very good.
So we'll do this together, okay?
Okay.
So if you want to screen capture that guy, you're welcome to. Just do a screen grab of him. And
Oh.
I'm gonna share my,
It
I'll
went
put
away.
it back, sorry, I'll put him back. Oh, my bad, that was too fast, right? Here, let me put him on a slideshow too. You can get him bigger. There we go. So
I
cute.
don't know how to do a screen grab.
You do like Command Shift 4 on a Mac. Or if you have another device like a phone, just take a picture of it on your phone. So if you're watching me on your laptop,
It's a iPad, but like
You
Maya
can take a
said,
picture with your iPad, Joe.
thank you guys for
I think
tipping. Seeing your tips come through already. Thank you. You didn't even wait to see if this is going to be good.
Yeah, it's
know
always
you,
good.
Anne.
You already know that.
We have faith.
We know it'll be good.
You guys
Yeah.
are so sweet. Thank you. So you guys let me know when you're ready, because once you guys have a grab of this, and it's easier, then I'll start sketching. But it's easier, I think, if you have a picture, you can look at your picture and you can also see how I break it down.
Mhm.
So does anyone need another minute to grab this rooster, this beautiful rooster? Okay. I don't hear any yeses, so I'm going to stop it. Okay.
Oh.
I'm going to share my drawing screen now. Or am I? Yeah, I can see that my computer didn't like all the toggling I was doing before, so give me a quick sec to fix my visualizer. My visualizer is just seeing me, it's not seeing my camera. That goes to my drawing window, so there we go. Okay, here we go. Did you hear it? I heard a little click, so. Very slow today for some reason. I'm gonna try it one more time. Maybe I need an upgrade on everything. Sorry, bear with me. Oh, finally. Okay. Gosh, it's troublesome today. It just doesn't, Zoom doesn't like it when you toggle so much between windows.
Mhm.
Okay, there we go. So can you guys see my drawing window now? My drawing paper?
Yes.
Okay. Phew. Okay. So sometimes it's helpful for me to have a frame. Frame gives me an idea of the proportion. Can you guys see? I'll try to draw darker, actually. I don't usually draw this dark, but I'm going to draw darker than I normally do. Okay. So when I see this rooster, this is what I see. I'm just going to tell you what I see. I see kind of a triangularly shaped body, and the head is sort of a triangle. The neck is a triangle as well. Or you could say it's a kind of a curved rectangle at the end. And then I see this other shape, which is like I don't know, a fan is what I would call it here. So not everything is circles and triangles and squares. I see that. And then I see a triangle of a leg, a rectangle of another leg that kind of continues up. And then this comb is another fan. So those are the shapes I see. If you have trouble seeing those shapes, I'm going to tell you the easiest thing to do to learn how to draw. Ready? You're going to print out a copy of a picture that you want to draw, like this, or a photo that you want to draw. You're going to print it out on a piece of paper. And then once you have it printed on the piece of paper, you're going to either take a highlighter or a Sharpie, and you're going to, you can do two different things. You can find your shapes. So maybe some of you guys see different shapes than I do, but I'm just looking for the big shapes. I don't look for all those little shapes, because if the big shapes fall into place, it'll be easier for me to do the little shapes. So I don't see all the shapes of the feathers. I don't even see the eye till the end. But if you take a Sharpie or a highlighter and you literally draw your shapes over the printout that you did in black and white so that the color doesn't confuse you, you will start to learn how to construct the picture using shapes, okay? And then print another picture. Maybe it's a dog, maybe it's a landscape. Start picking out shapes again with a marker and just do that over and over again. Let me tell you, it is one of the easiest ways to learn how to draw. The other thing you can do, and we haven't gotten to line yet, is you can do the same thing with line. So if you are more, you might find you're not a shape person. You see more in lines. You might see that you see more in values, but we're not going to cover that today. But if you find you're more of a line person, then what you can do is with that same printout, you outline this shape, first the outline, and then you pick out some of the key lines that you think are detailed. Not every line, but maybe a couple of the feathers, maybe the eye, maybe a bit of line in the comb to show the texture. Again, you're just drawing directly over your printout. The more you do that, the more you're gonna see, you're spending time seeing, the more you're going to develop a muscle memory for being able to draw. And then when you go to draw that on your paper, you're going to remember the angle of the line. You're going to remember how thick maybe that line was. You're going to remember the proportion of the shape and so forth. So again, if you're not automatically seeing the shapes, the way to practice, you could even get a coloring book and just start copy the shapes that you see in the coloring book. There's so many different ways to sort of do this practice. You can use tracing paper even. So yeah, I would totally recommend that for beginner artists. Okay, so I'm going to just start with my shape. So rather than start with an outline and try to figure out the whole outline of this guy, that is not my process. For some of you guys, it might be. And in some cases, it might be for me. But for me, I'm just going to look at this basic shape and I'm going to try to draw it. So like I said, I saw this shape, which to me was a little like a badge or a triangle was the first shape that I saw. And I already could see I'm not going to have any room for the tail. I've drawn it too big. So let me just start again. And within this basic shape I've drawn, I'll just draw it smaller. Because otherwise that tail will never fit. Now it's okay to go outside of the lines. We talk about that when we talk about composition and doing thumbnails, is sometimes you just go right out of the lines. Okay, so here's the body. There's one shape. Now I can look over here and at this top line I can see here's another shape right here. This is going to be the beginning of the head. Sorry, I don't mean to go off.
And you're a little bit off the screen.
Yeah, sorry about that, you guys. So then from here, really have to, I don't have my glasses on, so I have to look pretty hard and see. Okay, here is whatever that shape is, like a little curved triangle. Okay, so sometimes I might have to zoom in. And then I've got this fan shape. I'm just looking for the big shape. I'm not looking for all the little details yet within it. Because if I start drawing the little details, I'm going to get lost. And plus I'll have to redraw them if I get some proportion wrong or something. And guess what? I'm lazy. I'm not going to want to redraw it. So I'm going to end up with something that could have been better. So I might as well just wait and make sure I've got all the big things in place. And then I saw I had that little triangle here. So does it look anything like the original to you guys? Amazon wants to tell me something. Does it look like it or does it look like a crazy person is drawing at this point? That's the question. I also see a little
I think it looks like it.
it's okay, because some people who don't see in line are like, what is she doing? Like, I don't know. So I know I have the general proportions correct. So here now, I'm going to try to get the shape of this tail. So the shape of this tail is an odd shape. And also I might look and measure and see going across, Does the top of that tail, where does it hit? So I think it needs to be higher. Sometimes those shapes don't really matter, right? Those proportions. But if you're drawing a specific, let's say a specific breed of bird, let's just say, or a specific car or something, yes, those shapes matter because that's what tells you that's that particular beast, right? And other times it doesn't matter about getting it correct per se, but perhaps that little, the way that tail fans out is the thing that drew you to the picture. It's the detail that you like the most. It's the gesture that speaks to you. Well, if it is, regardless of getting it accurate to the picture, you want to capture that gesture because that's the thing you liked about it the most, right? So again, I'm not trying to get like too many feathers in here. In fact, I probably wouldn't even paint all these feathers. You guys know me, I don't paint that way. But I've got the basic shape of this rooster now. So I can obviously can see I went outside of my my composition line here, but that's okay because you just redraw that. And that's all right. You just change the outline and get rid of it. So now I can erase some of this. I know this is probably going to be too close too. So let's just redraw that. Now I can go back here and I can refine things a little. So this little beak here, I want to get that in. And also I can see this goes down a little more. I'm going to get that beak in there. And then I see another shape in here. And then here's where I see the eye. It's also where you can start sort of finessing some of the smaller shapes within. So we're not even worrying about this being three-dimensional yet, right? There's no contour lines or anything like that. But by getting the shapes properly, it's automatically going to look less flat and more realistic. Right? For example, if I just drew this comb and it was like straight on like this, that doesn't give it the illusion of being three-dimensional or in motion, whereas here, all these little slight changes in shape are what helps it look 3D. Again, that eye looks a little bit too small because I'm trying to put the smaller shape in it and it won't fit, so. The beak is a little too big. So you just start with.
Anne, can you pull your tablet down a little bit? We're missing the top.
Yes, sorry. Let me move
Thank
my
you.
camera a bit too. So how many of you guys draw like this on a regular basis, would you say?
Mm-mm.
Never.
Never.
Ah,
Yeah.
so you guys are drawing the outlines?
Yes.
Okay.
I was taught contour drawing in art school, so I've never even looked at this.
I have a light table.
There you go, Jerry. I love that Jerry's got a light. But let me ask you, Jerry.
It's a little tiny one and it works great.
When I paint, when I do landscape drawing or painting, I always print it out and do the Sharpie on it. That's one thing I learned. One of the first things I learned when I started taking classes was
great.
printing and shaping.
Listen, we all have different tools. There's so many at hand. So it's good to just be able to give you guys a couple more tools that you might not have. But you maybe like Jerry, like, I don't know, Jerry, if using that light table, it does, I know for sure, enable you to just get to painting, which is what you want to do. But
Yeah.
has it also helped you in any way with your drawing?
Yeah, I drew that parrot yesterday, which
You
I
freehanded
did that by freehand. I freehanded that by looking at a picture from the internet. You know, I
That's
didn't
great.
use the light table because I didn't want to waste all my ink with the color. You know,
Uh-huh.
so I but I'm getting better for sure. But you have to remember, Anne, when we started in June, 2020, I've never picked up a paintbrush or a pencil in my life to draw anything.
Oh, I
So
remember.
this is a great,
Yeah.
this is a great, I've made a lot of progress, I think. And some of them look like cartoons or they don't look so good, but you know what? I don't mind. I'm getting there. You know,
I think you have made probably some of the biggest, like the most progress out of anyone I work with. So kudos to you because you're dedicated. You're at every single happy hour, every single live draw, every single class, like
I try. I
putting in
sure
the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I could see here that I have still a lot more refining to do, but it's not bad. Not bad. I think I'm like, for me, if we were in the happy hour, which we have 1 hour, I would start drawing. But I can see like right here, he's not fat enough, right?
Mhm.
There's just, it needs a little bit more here before I started going to the interior. But,
Oh, I
you
think
know, sometimes it's good enough if you want to get painting, right?
And this is Marcia, and I'm gonna just show everybody, I use transfer paper. So you can print out the picture and then draw it over with, or put the paper on your paper. And it doesn't leave a pencil line. It goes right into your painting. Has anybody ever used that?
I don't know that brand. Is it a graphite transfer or what is it?
It's I don't know.
Because I've
It's
used transfer paper and I can't.
rail wax-free transfer paper.
Huh.
And it comes in different colors. My girlfriend uses pink. She's the one who taught me how to use it. She uses pink when she's doing faces and so when I have ink in my printer, I had to draw the painting I'm working on now. Draw it. I mean, I really had to draw, which I'd like to learn to do, but I had to draw because I didn't have any ink in my printer. But usually I just print it out, or I do somebody else was talking, you know, the felt tip and hold it in the window.
Yeah. I've done
I never
that.
knew how to draw, but I would like to learn how to draw.
Thank you.
It's a goal of mine this year.
That's this is a good start. And then for those of you guys who want some free classes, there's, I'll put it in the chat. It's called Draw Paint Academy, drawpaintacademy.com. They're pretty great in lessons and they're like nice chunks, little lessons. They're not interactive like this, but yeah, they're transfer paper. I've never liked it for watercolor because I've never found one that actually does not muddy up my watercolors. Yeah. So I think that I'll try this one. Thank you, Marcia. I'll give it a try. So anyway, let's see how everybody did because I will show mine and then why don't we all hold ours? If you want, you can hold yours up. It's not terrible, but we only took 10 minutes. So, oh, look at everybody's. Okay, so I'm basically going to put everybody into the spotlight so you guys can all see each other.
Wow.
You hold it up. I'll put up as many spotlights as I can. Karen, can you hold it a little higher? I might not be able to get everybody. I think it only lets me have 9. Look at you guys. You guys did great.
Wow.
Wow, Vicky, look at yours. Vicky, woohoo.
Wow.
Vicky, can you hold it closer to the camera, by the way? I see Pat who's doing hers in ink,
Wow.
in
Oh,
paint.
wow.
Whoa.
A lot of ink, very nice.
Oh, that's great.
Is there anybody who made a big leap here? Leap in scale or had like an epiphany with doing it this way?
I have a question, Anne. Can
Mary Ann and then Hillary. So we'll take the question first.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Anne.
Oh, okay. I was wondering when you were talking about printing it out, instead of printing it in color, if you print it in black and white, will you see the shapes better? Because I'm having a really tough time seeing the shapes, and I realize I do look at outlines and dips and
And
that
that's
kind of
okay. We're
stuff.
going to talk about that next. And If you're an outline person, if you're a person who maybe sees in shapes or you learned that way, now you'll be able to put the two together and use them in conjunction. So you'll take a
Okay.
strength and the weakness will become stronger and it'll be better overall. Your drawing will help. But yes,
Yeah.
color is a distraction for many of us.
Okay.
Pretty colors especially. So yeah, printed in black and white. Definitely. Thank you.
When I
Maybe.
practice like this, I like to use different colors so I can see where I started. And then I'll use another color for some refining and then another color.
What a great idea.
So I can see my changes.
Thank you. Okay, Hillary.
No, I was just going to say, I tend to just draw right on the paper that I'm going to paint on. And you're right, you end up with trying to, so then I try and draw here. It's a great idea, Anne. Oh, I didn't think of showing it like on something else and then just doing my light thing, like when I'm doing a pet portrait.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you can draw right on the Arches paper. And then once you've got the drawing down, you could take not this kind of an eraser, but you could take a gummy eraser and you can go like this and tap, tap, tap it on the paper and it will lift up quite a bit of the graphite. But for me, I still like it's still too much. Yeah,
I just tend to be really sketchy. You know, like I'm sketch. So if you look, see, so it's just
it ends up being too much. Yeah,
too many lines, too much.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, Diane. Hey, Diane.
I just wanted to share a funny. Am I muted?
Please.
No, I'm not.
No, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Right before this, I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't like just drawn in so long. So maybe I'll do a couple of sketches. And it's so funny because I was drawing this before the class started.
That's great.
Which
I
was
like how you
really
lifted the
funny.
head. Oh, that's a different picture?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is before we even started. I thought, oh, I'll just practice some drawing. And it happened to be a rooster.
It's got a very similar shape too. Oh, that's so
I know.
funny.
I was like, that's so weird.
By the way,
I
you
did.
guys, I'm going to add a spotlight. So Diane and Kara, you guys are all say hi to each other. You're all coming to the Two Harbors.
Hi.
This is
Oh, yay.
Two Harbors group. Okay. But now you know
That's
what
gonna
each
be
other
so
looks
fun.
like. That's nice, Kara. Kara, we
Yeah,
know
my
Kara's
little-
got good skills with drawing.
Mm.
Beautiful, you
Oh,
guys.
wow.
Oh, I love it. I can really see the geometry, the shapes in yours, Kara, too. And you started shading yours, Diane. So you're faster than I am.
Yeah, I did the shapes first and then I had a little gummy eraser and erased
Got rid of
the
it. Well,
the
that's really
shapes and then started doing that.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna take all your spotlights off. I just wanted you to see faces when you start getting each other on the email. So this is for our spring retreat, which is fall, but not everybody knows each other. So now you guys have met at least
Thank
some
you.
of each other. You're welcome. Jerry, did you want to share? I see you holding it up. No. Okay. Okay. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. You guys did a great job. Okay. So now you've got a new method in your toolkit for drawing. Can everybody see this guy?
Yes.
So one of the things we didn't talk about, because there weren't a whole lot of negative shapes, was also to look at the negative shape. So the negative shape is the shape that's around your main subject. Okay. In this painting, I really can't say that the negative shape is the bridge, but it was like the only thing I really had at hand that I could show you that was a work in progress, because I forget to take progress shots. So normally the negative shape would be like this curve right here of the back. Like that's a shape that really stands out to me and can help you when you're building your positive shapes to make sure that you've got the relationships between shapes right. Because if you put this triangle for the head and then you make that badge for the body and then you put the tail in and you don't end up with this shape here, then if you're paying attention, that's where you can go and refine where you went wrong, because this little curve to the back creating this little negative U shape is a very particular shape. So paying attention to both the positive and the negative shapes can help you with relationships. Likewise, between the legs, you see that little like feather shape between the two legs. If you don't get that right, maybe the legs are too far apart, maybe they're too close together. And maybe it doesn't matter, but it just might matter, right? It just might make the difference between a parrot and a pigeon, for example, that you're trying to draw. You know, yeah, this is a joke between one of the artists and myself. So we drew parrots yesterday. Friday in happy hour. So negative shapes would be paying attention to the shape that you're not drawing at that time. And it's usually what is the shapes that are around the main subject. In this case, my bridge is the main subject, but you can see here that the white of the bridge is a very particular shape. And then you can also see where I've added the third dimension, the little curve, so that you could see that little sliver under the bridge, because you're not looking at the bridge head on, right? You're looking at it from a slight angle, so, and a little bit from underneath. So you can see a little bit of the top of the underside of the bridge and a little bit of the side, which has been shaded. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You guys looking for negative shapes when you look? Good.
Going down.
Good. Okay, so now for all of us who want to learn about line. So line and shape are related. Obviously, a shape is just a closed line, but a line for some people, it might help you to think of it as a dot that just keeps moving, right? So it's connected together. This is a really old picture that I drew in like high school or college. So it actually drew my lines with dots quite a lot back then. I don't know who I was looking at or what I was looking at, but that's how I used to draw all the time. So contour lines, when we talk about contour drawing, and a lot of us have mentioned that, is the edges or the outline or the boundaries, right? So this is a contour drawing of a pair of hands. There aren't a lot of lines that define the wrinkles in the skin and that kind of thing. It's mostly the outline of the fingers, the boundaries from one plane change to another. But contour lines can be outlines, but they can also be inner lines, inner contour, right? So where you see the changes in the knuckles here, or a change, let's say, in a fur break on an animal that you might be drawing. Okay, but as you can see with this picture, although a lot of us really like line drawings and like looking at them, on their own, they are essentially incomplete. Not incomplete in the sense of a work of art, but incomplete in the sense of they're not realistic, because you need to add value or some sort of cross-hatching to create that third dimension if you want to have realism in your art, right? I like line drawing, so don't get me wrong. I'm pretty happy and would call it quote unquote finished because I like looking at it that way. But there's no third dimension. Your brain has to fill in the gaps on them. So when we're drawing with line, we have a lot of different things about line that can help us in our drawing. So you have the quality of the line. Now, when I was in art school, I had no idea what they were talking about. When the teacher would say, I love the quality you achieved on that line, I would ask my boyfriend who was sitting next to me, what is he talking about? I just didn't know the quality of it. He'd say, nice quality of line. And I'm like, what? It just refers to the individual character of that line. So it might refer to, you may vary the thinness or the thickness of that line. And you can kind of see here, even where I haven't gone over the line multiple times, that some of the lines are thicker or thinner. I've used more pressure in some spots than others. Sometimes the line can convey a shadow because of the thickness that you use or going over it and over it. I'm not actually shading, but it can end up looking like shading. Could be rough versus smooth, right? So, and here in the apple, this is a good example where you can see the quality of the line, the thickness where I've pressed harder, and then where I've let the pencil sort of dance, you get a thinness. It does sort of help you feel there might be some third dimension here, even though it's only implied, right? So for those of us who love line, the line doesn't always have to be the same line. You don't always have to use the point of your pencil either. If you use the side of it, for example, you'll get a totally different quality of line. Okay. So lines, contour lines will outline the object or the shape. So I guess I was smart. I put this annotation in ahead of time, but landscape can be super, it can be very helpful to do contour lines in a landscape. You might not, if you're painting outside, you might not have a lot of time to really rough in a subject, but a contour line can give you a character of that mountain, and it can also help you guide the composition with just an outline. And then when you use contour lines inside the object, it's called a cross contour line. So those lines flow over the object and help you create the illusion of the third dimension. So you don't necessarily need value or shading. By sort of following the form of this apple, these lines without any value or any shading help you understand that this apple is 3D and that it bulges out coming towards you, correct? Do you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay. Likewise, here you've
Yes.
got, thank you.
I saw a pumpkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
I saw
Yeah.
a pumpkin, but an apple will do.
You can see how,
Makes sense.
yeah, you can see how quickly I drew that. So, but it doesn't look flat is the point. And the same thing with this arch in Moab is that you can see by the cross contour lines, which also color, there's some color differentiation as well. But in these cross contour lines, you're getting the feeling that it's not just a U shape that's stuck onto the canvas, right? It actually, there's some curve to that rock.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So line is also helpful in composition because it directs your eye around the picture. Okay, so this was a sketch I made for a painting that I did of San Luis Obispo and Paso Robles, the wine country. So when you're using line in a landscape, and we'll do a lot more of this next month, but you're going to want to try to keep your horizon line level, find that line and keep it level. And then you can use different lines to create energy, motion, stillness, etc. So diagonals help to create energy and motion in a picture. Verticals will give you some stability, but they'll also add variety and can help you with scale. Verticals help you with scale more than anything else. So those taller verticals, those trees are a little closer. As you get further away, those verticals should get smaller. Okay. Verticals can also help you with borders. So see the difference between this sort of calm Catalina sunset on the right with a lot of horizontals and the more energy that you have in the verticals on the left. So line can help you with composition, not just with drawing an object, which we talked about earlier. When you converge lines on the paper, they draw the eye. So where do you guys see the lines converging to here?
Sunset.
They all, yeah, they all kind of go to that point. Even though these clouds create a line, there's lines within the shapes, and you've got the lines, these diagonals, you've got your horizontal here, not a lot of verticals, a couple of verticals within this shape here. So this is a great example of a picture that uses, it's very abstracted picture that uses all of these elements so well. You've got
That's so
shape
pretty.
within the landmass, the clouds, you've got the horizontals, the diagonals, a little bit of vertical, and they sure do direct a composition in a very loose picture. It's also got value and color in a beautiful way. This is Florian Schaub here.
Beautiful.
Okay. So we've got like 20 minutes left or so to draw. I thought we could draw a little. What do you guys think about this picture?
Perspective. It reminds me of perspective drawing when I was in school.
Oh yeah, for sure. So if you're not, you can draw this even if you don't understand perspective, because we just talked about shape and line. And so if you forget perspective, throw it out the window and just use the shapes that you're seeing and the lines you're seeing, I think that you'll get there. Sure. if you have perspective, that might even be more helpful. But I like this because I just took this picture the other day in San Pedro, and I took it because I liked the reflections. Compositionally, it's got some challenges. Right in the center of the picture is there's a big blank nothing. But we're going to forget about that aspect of the composition because we can rework this composition next month if you guys are interested, because that's what we're going to focus on, that you could use shape and line to design your painting, to design your composition. You don't have to just take what you see at face value. But for today, we don't have enough time to do all that. So how about we use shape and line to sketch this right now? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll make it bigger and then you can capture it. Also, I liked it for this example because it's mostly monochromatic, mostly. And so we're not distracted too much. And I love the shapes and the lines here. By the way, if you guys are discovering, or you already know about yourself that you love to use shapes in your watercolors, I can tell you to go look at some of the early California watercolor landscape painters like George Post. Go look up George Post. They loved using shape. They hardly ever blended. They don't blend, those early Californians. The European watercolorists, they blend a lot. So the shapes sort of flow into each other, like in that Florian Shaw. But George Post and the other early Californiists, they do not blend. They were all about mark making. So go look at their shapes. And then if you like lines, you'll see those too. But if you really like line, go look at my friend Hema's work. She's a contemporary watercolor artist. If you know her, you know she's a master of line. Her name is Hema Bharadwaj. I'll put it in the thank you email I send out. I'll send you guys some links. Okay. So anyway, how about we start sketching this bad boy here? That's some time. So I gotta grab mine, but I'll tell you guys, I'm gonna start with the horizon. It is the easiest place to start to find that when you're doing a landscape painting. So, and I should tell you, I did this already. I'm gonna show it to you because I was just fascinated by it and I had free time, so I sketched it. And this isn't good paper, so I sketched it first and then I added color to it. So I'm gonna share my screen here. I'll try not to go off screen.
Can you put a picture of it back on so we can take a picture?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. I thought everybody got that. Yeah, I have to find it on my phone anyway. So go ahead and do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Yeah, so when I was doing this, I didn't have time to design the picture. I'm a very literal person, so I am really learning to I can redesign something completely. But in this case, I didn't really care. I just drew it as I saw it. So here we go. So I'm gonna find this horizon, and when I look at this, it's about 2/3 of the way down or 1/3 of the way up. And then the top of the bridge, which gets cut off, is the second third. So how helpful is that? That's already in a good place. So using the rule of thirds in your compositions can be super helpful. So I drew that line all the way across. So there's I'm gonna draw darker for the sake of this. I normally wouldn't draw this dark. So there's my first line. And the second line I want to get is I want to figure out how far this is. So halfway, and then is where, when I look at the halfway point, and then I can back it over a little bit. And this is where I'll start this. And then I'm going to go up. So if you're not sure if that's the right angle for the line, I talked about sighting. I hold my pencil here. And then I bring it here without changing the angle. And I can see I've got the basic angle correct. You guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Don't need a protractor. And then I'm just gonna follow the line and shape. There's some really strong lines and some nice strong shapes in this. So I think if I'm going to make any changes here, I might just make this container ship come a little bit closer. So the whole trick, I think, to using especially shape is to not get too in the weeds. Build the tree first and then the leaves. You know, don't start with the leaves. Usually a recipe for disaster. It's about patience. If you can have the patience to get that tree shape right, then you could do whatever you want with the leaves. But if you start in with the leaves and you don't have the masses yet, you don't have the shape of that tree yet, it's not, you run the risk it doesn't even look like a tree. So then these are just a bunch of rectangles. Some of them are taller than others. There is a little third dimension on these, if you note them. If you don't look closely enough, you might forget to add that third dimension, but it's in there. See it? I'm drawing it right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not drawing all the individual containers. I'm just drawing the stacks of the containers. And by the way, these will be shaded because they're in shade. So if you want to throw the shade in there now, if it helps you with your picture, then these guys are more head on as they come towards you, a little bit more head on. Okay. Sometimes you can't resist just putting a detail in there, but that's okay. And this is a fun, strong shape right here. It's like an H almost.
Since I'm pretty new at this, is it okay to just leave out some of this and just concentrate on it? Because there's so much.
You're the artist. You can do whatever you want.
Thank you.
Yes, you can. You should leave a lot out. You should. We're not cameras. You put in what your story is, whatever you like, whatever is you think is most important. Like, I'm not going to draw the cars on the bridge, and I certainly don't draw every detail of everything that I see here because I don't have patience for that. And as you guys know, once I stop having fun, once I have to think too much, yeah, it's just not fun for me anymore. So I'm just going to do what I want on here. And you should too. You should draw what you want. You can hint at certain things, you know. You don't need to put all the detail. If I put a couple of X's in this bridge, we're going to know that the X's go all the way across, right? Likewise with back here. Here's where that atmospheric perspective comes into play. You don't need to draw all these containers back here unless you really want to. But I want this to look like a bridge and not something else. So there's a few things that I want to put in. Oops, that line just got too curved. Oops. And then I'm gonna put, you know, some things in that look like, I don't know, civilization or a port. But also those verticals will help because there's so many horizontals, and it also gives it scale, right? So once you start putting in some telephone poles and things like that, and they're really tiny, tiny little lines. I'm gonna leave out all those palm trees in the distance. I don't see them. I only see them if I pinch and zoom, and I'm not, my eyes don't do that in real life. So then you get to the fun part where you get to add these little lines as the reflections in the water. As many of them or as few of them as you like. They really are fun. And down here, these will be super fun. And again, this is the part where I would just do these in watercolor, right? I wouldn't do these in pencil. I would just put them right down and paint. How far can we get on this in just a few minutes is the question. Oops. I drew a vertical line in there where it shouldn't have been one. If you want to start shading, if you're a values person, sometimes the shading does really help you figure out what's next. Compositionally, you could really see the issues in this picture, right? It's like two separate pictures that haven't really come together. But, you know, you could always put a cloud in the sky or something right here. It already makes it a little bit better. So while you're doing this, you know, it's easy to see why art is so hard. It's easy when you don't know anything and you're not thinking about it, right? I know there's a famous artist who has a quote about that. But it's hard when you know what you're doing, because all of a sudden you're drawing and you're like, I'm trying to get these shapes right. I'm trying to get these lines right. Now I'm thinking about the quality of line, which I never thought about before, right? And then there's value, and now Anne tells me the composition is weird, and like you know, there's so much and we haven't even put color or watercolor technique into the mix yet, right? That's not even something we've even talked about yet. So there's just a lot to think about when it comes to art. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the easier it is to sort of think things through. That looked like it was a picture on the paper, but it's not. Oh, Hillary says goodbye to everybody. She said it was a great class. Oh, some people had to leave early. So I'll show you this one and then show you the one I did in color. So I literally did do a pencil drawing without it being so dark, because I generally don't draw that dark. And then I added some watercolor, but I'll tell you, this paper is so absorbent that my colors aren't very vivid because this isn't watercolor paper. This is a $2 sketchbook from Daiso that I just generally use just to do like some thumbnails. I'll do thumbnails in it, or here's a contour drawing from when we went to the mountains that I then added some color to. So this is just studies. You could see studies and things like that in this book. This one is very hard to see, but these I did studies last week of the king tide. That's at the Upper Back Bay. And then I did a painting, which I showed some of you guys on Friday. Keep it simple as my note. I don't think I did that. Just got carried away. But it was so cool. Sometimes a painting is about the detail, you know? So yeah, this is mostly just for practice. So it doesn't hold a lot of water, but I had fun and adding the color in nonetheless, because I just wanted to make those little squiggles in with my brush. That's what I wanted to do. So anyway, I'd love to see if anyone wants to share their progress. Maybe you guys didn't get to finish because I see a lot of people with their head in their hands, which I don't know if that's good, but I'll come to you guys as you hold it up. And those of you guys who are still going, you can keep going. Yeah. Let's see, Jerry. I'm trying to remember. See, Jerry, not bad, lady.
Wow.
For a first time.
Yeah.
No sketch, no light table.
No, that's really good, Jerry. Did you
I was
find
trying to get some of the perspective better than I have in the past, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing was that the most perspective you had in here is the angle of that bridge sort of going.
Yeah.
That was, I would say, the hardest part. But did you find
the
it
hard part.
easier? Yeah, did you find it easier to tackle the lines or the shapes that were in this picture?
I thought it was easier to go with the straight lines and the up and down lines, the rectangles and the boxes, and rather than the swoopers.
Yeah, the swoopers are harder.
The swoopers were the hardest, but I think I got something under the bridge there that kind of showed the shadow with the swooper. But
show us. Can you show us again? You want to see?
Oh yeah,
I think that is the hardest.
Yeah, I did something here with the swoopers, and I tried to get the bridge in, but I couldn't get all the lines in that I wanted. But it's okay.
It's pretty good.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
For a first time trying to sketch from looking at your picture and then trying to recreate it.
Absolutely.
I gotta work on it a little more. So
you did great. Thank you for sharing. I like that paper that you used. Marianne, do you have a question, or I see you have your finger up?
Oh, no, that's
No.
just, I'm just resting.
Okay. Joyce, I'm going to come to you. I see you've got your hand up. A lot of you guys are blanked out, like you're still working. And then I'll come to you, Marcia. You'll be next.
Oh,
Wow,
that's
Joy.
good.
So Joyce
Wow,
has
look
been
at that.
taking classes. Joyce has been taking drawing classes, not with me.
Oh, that's great, Joyce. That looks really cool.
Thanks.
I think you actually even stretched your bridge out, so you made like a little more to it, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I might have gotten it a little off on perspective. But
no, I think it looks really great. Beautiful.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I wouldn't think that. Let's see. I see Diane's is up, but I thought, Marcia, that you wanted to share, but your hand went down. So let me come to you. Sometimes it puts your hand down if I take too long.
Oh,
Oh, look at that. That's lovely.
So
That's cool, yeah.
I just had a little piece of paper, and you had talked about drawing with
Drawing with your brush.
drawing with my brush. So I just tried it really helped to see the triangles and the squares, and I tried to get a little bit of the reflection and do but I only had a little piece, so I could only do a little bit of the bridge. I couldn't fit but
like your composition is better than mine because it makes more sense. Like that's where we as artists get to pick and choose. You don't have to draw the whole scene in front of you. Good job.
I couldn't have, like I said, I just had, but since I have a pile of scrap paper here, and I thought, well, I'll try that like you had suggested, and it was fun, and I could see the reflections were straight down. Again, looking at the picture and trying to get it. It was.
It's
I'm
wonderful.
pleased. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pleased.
Thank
And
you.
with that, I have to say goodbye.
Okay, thanks for coming, Marcia, and for participating.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Bye-bye, everybody. See you
Bye.
next.
Okay, Vicky, I'm coming to you. You guys hold your hands up if you want me to come. Wow. Vicky. Vicky, you brought your composition together by
I did.
by closing the gap on the two pieces and then eliminating a lot of extra stuff under the bridge. You made it all about the bridge and the container. It's really awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And your proportions are nice. I know you're working on your drawing. It's coming together.
I am.
Keep going. Keep going. You're doing great. Ginny,
Thank
did you
you.
want to share or are you still going?
I'm still going, but this is as far as I got.
Okay, and then I see Steve, you've got yours up, so I'll come to you. Oh, you're at it. It keeps following you, Ginny. Do it again. Hold it up again.
I don't know why
Isn't
it
that
does
weird
that.
thing?
I'll hide myself.
That's nice, Ginny. Are you gonna
Oh,
add
yeah.
color to that when you're done?
You got me. We'll see.
Ginny, can I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
Take a look at the angles on that crane again. They should be straight. You got them a little curved. I know I can tell Ginny what to do.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. Oh, wow.
It'll make a big difference. Because
That's
everything
weird.
else is straight. So yeah.
Huh.
I'm gonna use Steve.
Isn't the one curved on the side on the right?
Yeah, but Ginny's were just a little too curved in
Oh,
terms of the
okay.
rest of it all being so accurate.
Okay.
Ooh, can you hold that up, Steve?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Oh,
Oh, so you
yeah.
zoom in on your lines first for us. Beautiful.
Oh, I think it's the back of the paper. It came,
Oh,
there's
gotcha.
text behind it.
Gotcha. Nice job, Steve.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I didn't think the text was going to show through.
That's okay. I can see that. I thought you had guidelines, which I thought was
I
brilliant.
thought
Oh,
too.
it's the-
Me
Yeah,
too.
That's what it
actually,
is.
actually, the text did make it easy to do the straight lines.
Right? So graph paper can help people who have problem with that
Mm-hmm.
too. Architects draw on graph paper all the time. Karen, I'm coming to you, and then I'll come to you, Diane and Pat. Ooh, nice, Karen. Oh, I
Good.
love that elongated swoop of the bridge. Beautiful.
I had a problem with perspective and I had to kind of redo the tallness of the
Yeah,
whatever these are, cranes.
but you noticed it, so that's good. Yeah, you made your shapes more relative in size. Like your container ship, you made it more relative to the bridge. That's an interesting interpretation of it, though. It looks further away, but it still looks correct.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's where I goofed up, I think. Yeah, I should have made it.
Very nice. Yeah,
Mine's not in perspective. That's what I'm missing.
and that's okay. So I see you guys holding up, but it takes me a second because I don't see hands. So it's Diane, right? I'm coming to you, Diane Riska. And then Diane Laura. I see you, Pat. Okay. And Anna, I see you. Nice job. Good one, Diane. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. Diane, your drawing skills are good. Okay, so I said Pat, I'm coming to you. I see you too, Anna. I see you too, so I'll be coming.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
That looks good.
Pat,
Yeah, that's great.
I like the shading too. Beautiful. Oh, you got both cranes in there. I like the two cranes. That's nice. I think-
too.
Yeah, because you got the two directions that it's going in. It makes it interesting. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, Anna, you're up. Anna, did you want to hold up and share with me?
Oh,
Wow,
wow.
Wow.
That
Oh,
looks good.
wow.
Oh, I love the drama in your lines.
Mhm.
Very
Yeah.
nice. that just pencil?
Very good.
Sorry, I didn't know you were calling me because I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, I thought you did. I thought I saw you hold the book up. Sorry.
No, I was fussing with my book and position.
Oh, got it. Well, thank you for sharing anyway. It's beautiful. Nice work. Okay, so who does want to go? Diane, Laura, do you want to share? Okay. When you put your virtual hand up, I can.
Nice.
Oh, nice, Diane.
Yeah, that's nice, huh?
Yeah.
Very nice.
View is off. Like I should have made the stuff in the middle a little lighter, maybe, you know?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's not, it doesn't throw me off. Certainly you can
Okay.
fix it.
Yeah.
The bridge looks like it's bending downwards. If you look at it in the picture,
Yeah.
it curved.
It's, I saw it afterwards, it's curving the other way.
Yeah. Which is still looks like a bridge. It just doesn't have the same kind of drama to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
nice stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, for 10-minute drawing, you guys all did great. Was there anybody who I missed?
I have a question. When you say put your virtual hand up, is that just wave your hand or is there something on the computer?
Oh,
or-
there's a
It's
little
called reaction.
Yes, it's under reactions and it's a little hand. And if you don't have the reactions, you hit the 3 dots up by your name. I believe you can do it
Okay,
there.
where it says more.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
I
Maybe.
see this.
No,
Yeah.
No worries. I think I got you all. Or if I missed anyone, just shout right
Okay, anyway, yes.
now. Okay. Well, thank you guys all so much for coming. I really enjoyed today. I hope you learned something or at least got to flex some muscles a little bit.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Anne.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Anne.
Thanks for coming. I'll send out the
Yeah.
link to the recording tonight. It'll be up on YouTube tonight.
And then how
Okay.
do you do that Venmo thing again? Where do you have that
Oh,
information?
I'll put it in the chat right now. And I do, someone
Okay.
asked me if I take Zelle. I do take Zelle.
Are you taking Zelle? Is it in your phone number or in?
Yeah, just use my phone
in your-
number. Yeah,
Okay,
Zelle.
because I
And
tried to
I-
do it before, it didn't
Oh.
go through, but I'll try again.
yeah,
Okay.
give it a try.
Somebody's
And my-
putting up a colored, a painted. Who is that?
Ooh, of the rooster. It looks good.
Who's that?
Oh, yeah,
don't
it's
know.
HTTPS.
It's-
Web
That's
Zoom.
great.
That's beautiful.
Oh,
Pat.
wow, that came
That's
out
great.
nice.
So good. Yeah, I love just the little hints at the feathers. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
how
you.
you
Very
do it.
nice.
That's how you do
Thank
it,
you,
Pat.
Anne.
Good job. You're welcome. Yeah, for
Good
you guys
job.
who are looking on my Venmo, and my Venmo is Ann Cupie, the letter Q, the letter P. So it's my name and then Cupie. Thank you so much, you guys. I gotta go to work.
Okay.
I wish I didn't.
Oh,
Zelle is your
bye.
phone number. What's your phone number? What
Oh,
number
my
do
phone number,
you
I'll put
use?
that in the chat. And also you guys can always text me if you add color to your work or you want to send it to me for a critique or anything.
Oh, I
I
see.
love it. I love it when people text me artwork. Some of you guys will text and apologize. Don't ever apologize. That's the best thing I could get is a text of your artwork all day. I love it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great weekend. The rest of it anyway.
bye.
Bye.
You too.
Thank you.